All right, looks like we are live on Rumble and on YouTube. Welcome back to Jam Crypto. Here comes another live stream. Well, I'm really excited today because over the weekend, Bitcoin was retracing down a little, but this morning when I opened the chart, it's bouncing back up. So it's looking good, but at the same time, because another reason why I'm so happy is because I'm wearing another scarf. So the last stream, I was wearing the blue one, and today I switched over to the light brown one because I bought like a bunch of different scarves recently with different patterns, and this one is like with the matte pattern. I'm really liking it. Then I turn it into like a vest. I tie a knot at the back. Well, I'm thinking that I'm gonna be my signature or something for this channel. But anyways, we're here to talk about the market, not my scarf, even though I'm very excited. Well, so Bitcoin is bouncing back a little bit. The reason why we've seen such a dip during the weekend, well, first of all, is because of the job market. It was cracking, like people worry about recession, like and other talk about recession. So what's going on? And also Donald Trump like fired the head of the labor market, like the BLS. That is, well, that is really something. And then lastly, we also have some Ethereum Treasury companies. So SharpLink Gaming bought another like multi-million dollars worth of Ethereum. So are we seeing like a potential bubble forming here? What is the financial of these companies that are adopting this basically MSTR MicroStrategy play, but they are doing it to Ethereum right now? So we're going to dive into the market. But first of all, of course, we need to look at the chart of Bitcoin because that's how I like to open the show. Well, so Bitcoin is over the weekend dipped to 112K. Well, I think it touched like 111K, so 111K over the weekend. Obviously, we have like a quick correction, and then we also bounce back up. So right now we are back to almost 115K. So things are looking all right. But I did mention about this like descending triangle for a very long time. So we were building within this region like this momentum. So I'm not surprised that we saw this like retracement, this correction over the weekend. Although I would say like initially I was predicting that there will be a retracement down to roughly let's see, 100 so 11K. So that is like pretty accurate for the TA. In terms of the TA, the reason why this is such a critical level is because if you go back to the previous all-time high, this is a like 112 or around that, like 112, 111K region. That is the previous all-time high back in May, just like 2 or 3 months ago. So the fact that we see some support at 112K, somewhere around that, 111, 112, that's really good. So what I would like to see is that Bitcoin actually like stay inside that region and build some momentum. The reason why I would prefer to stay inside that region, because if you go back to any price history, there isn't much data around this region. So that means 112 to 115 is like a key area. If we lose this support, then very likely, the next one is going to be the previous all-time high at around 109. So the previous all-time high in January, 109. Another critical level is 106. That is the previous all-time high in December 2024. So those are the critical levels, but the most ideal is to stay within this region and build some momentum here so that we could have the next support and resistance moving forward. And the reason why I wasn't surprised to see we stay inside this region is that, like, historically speaking, August hasn't been the strongest for Bitcoin. Because if you scroll down, look at August, you see like the huge red column here. Basically, 7 months out of 11 months, you will end up seeing a dump in August. So the most ideal is to stay inside this region so that moving forward, we have price data. But if not, I won't be surprised that we drop to another critical level, 109 or even 106 further. So let's see how it plays out. And let's also look at Ethereum now, because like Ethereum is holding rather well, like surprisingly well. I was surprised as well, because this critical level of 0.029 is acting like it has been acting like a resistance line. Right now it's a support line. And we are still trading above that support line. We are like roughly here, so like 5% above the support line, which is pretty decent. Like, I don't know why TradingView keeps doing that. So every single time I have to reload it. And then let's also look at the Ethereum USD. So for Ethereum, this level, so 3100 to 3300 is another level, like critical region. If we end up like going down because of August being so hostile to crypto, if we end up having another retracement, then within this region is gonna be a major buy for me. Like, I'm gonna ape into the market, buy a bag of Ethereum for sure if Ethereum ever dipped to this level. So that's another thing I'll watch. And Solana, absolutely take a look at this. It bleeds against Ethereum. This is one thing I want to talk about, because like we always say, for a bull market to start, Bitcoin will for sure the first one to see the effect. So of course we saw Bitcoin absolutely rip the market for the past like more than a year. And right now we are finally seeing some positive sign for Ethereum, and other altcoins are still bleeding against Ethereum. And this is also the case for Solana. So what I want to see next is to Bitcoin stay inside this region, so 112 and 115. The reason why I prefer Bitcoin just stay inside this region is for altcoins to fly, for even Ethereum to fly. If Bitcoin is ripping up and test another, like back to the previous all-time high of 123, then all the attention going to go back to Bitcoin, and liquidity is like, it's almost like we are fighting for the liquidity. And then this is the case for Bitcoin for more than a year. Right now, we're seeing Ethereum to shine. And then next, hopefully, after the Ethereum pump, we're going to see Solana or even smaller altcoins to shine and ape into even more degen play. I know the NFTs are pumping a lot, so maybe that's like the first bullish sign of a full-on alt season. Well, that's it for the charts. And also right now, let's look at the labor market, because there's a lot of stories, a lot of juicy news going on in the labor market. So what happened is that the US added 73,000 jobs in July, which is like a lot lower than the expectation, because the Wall Street is expecting like 100K, or even like some of the metrics are expecting 147,000 for jobs being created. So people were not happy about this. People were, again, is this like an early sign of recession in 2026? So here's the details. Like, unemployment rate is 4.2%, which is like in line with the forecast. People are concerned, and headlines are making it like a real issue, like a declining labor force and a massive downward revision to prior months. And what even more concerning is that if you look at the data here, like in May and in June, they revised down by 258,000 jobs combined. So what does this mean? that means like job creation has stalled, and the economy is almost like losing its steam. So if you break down the key metrics, 73, so first of all, 73,000 jobs is like the weakest 3-month average since 2020. And unemployment rate, like 4.2%, is not like bad, it's stable, but it still hides the labor exit threat, right? So it rose a little from 4.1% to 4.2%. And also when you look at the average hourly earnings, right now is 3.9%. It's still not catching up with the past inflation. So people are not happy about this. Like I said, losing momentum. And what you could look from like pandemic boom to the post-pandemic stall that we have, because like in 2022 to 2024, the US absolutely saw a jobs boom. Right now in 2025, we're seeing a slowdown, like drastic slowdown. Hiring is now focused in non-cyclical sectors like healthcare or social assistance, where areas like manufacturing, retail, government are either flat or even cutting jobs. So labor force is also shrinking. Well, this is the one factor that I wasn't like extremely concerned, because like shrinking labor force is what has been going on around the whole world. So it's not just like a USA problem. Like we have aging demographics, like lower birth rate, etc. So labor force is shrinking in a lot of like developed countries. And then there's also like remote work dropouts. Like people nowadays, like youngsters, they much prefer working remotely. Like myself myself included. Yeah, a lot of like people, so-called digital nomad, maybe just grab a laptop and work in, I don't know, Thailand or some chill countries, instead of like going to a 9 to 6 job. So that's another factor that I wasn't like too concerned about the job market. But one thing, what we could read from this job market is that there could be like even more pressure to place on the Fed for a rate cut. Because now if you look at the CME Group, the prediction, like, so there will be like a Fed meeting on 17th of September. Initially, I remember like the last stream that we look at, they're like 50% of people still predict that in September there wouldn't be a rate cut. So there'll be like constant, remain the rate at constant. But right now today, 80% of people are now predicting that there will be a 25 basis point rate cut because of this labor market. People are so concerned about the recession threat. And also, even though if the Fed is not cutting rate in September, we for sure that the next, whoever gonna lead the next Fed chair, he's gonna cut rates, because he's gonna be the almost like a kissing ass of Donald Trump. So he will cut rates even without Donald Trump saying a word. So that's what I would predict. And what this tells us about the economy is that, well, August is obviously a slow month. Job growth is well below what is needed to sustain population growth or even fuel strong GDP. Wage growth is at 3.9%. It's not disastrous, but at the same time, it's not helping households to fight real inflation. The bigger risk is that the engine has stalled. Like, everything is pointing towards a slowdown or even a recession by 2026. So I would say we still have months to go. We are definitely in the middle of bull market. If you also look at the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, everything say that 2026 we have to be cautious. So my plan right now is I'm still trading, I'm still buying some Ethereum. I bought like JLP. JLP is another like huge bag that I have as well. So I'm still enjoying this bull run, but like my plan is by early 2026, then if all metrics are pointing towards a like slowdown, whether it's like Bitcoin cycle or the job market, etc., points toward the slowdown, then I will sell like more, like basically DCA out my bag for crypto. So that's basically my plan. But let's go back to, so that's down the line, that's 2026. We still have like months to go. We're only in August. So let's still enjoy the bull run right now. And this is like the job market. This is great news for Bitcoin because Bitcoin right now is acting like a classic macro asset. Bitcoin dipped to like 112K, 111K after the jobs report. Like there's initial fear, oh, is recession definitely a thing? But within hours, it bounced back to 115K. I briefly touched 116K on some exchanges. The reason why is because rate cuts equals more liquidity. Like people can borrow money for cheaper, and that historically has been bullish for crypto. Lower interest rates always weaken the dollar because like if the dollar is losing value, I might as well just go and invest my money to so-called more risk on assets. There's some controversy there whether Bitcoin is really still risk on. I don't think risk on, but the fact is like Bitcoin is still the fastest horse out of all the investment options. Like, are you gonna buy gold? Like, I like gold, but like in terms of the investment return rate, Bitcoin is definitely beating gold. So I'm sure like when the liquidity open up, a bunch of money gonna flow to Bitcoin, and because Bitcoin looks very attractive in terms of the risk and reward. And there's still a lot of people who haven't held gold. Haven't held Bitcoin, BTC. So BTC now trades in sync with macro liquidity cycles. If the Fed pivots, BTC could easily go to 120K and way past that. Obviously, there's like a psychological number 130, but that's going to be, I would say, down the line. So in September, August, I won't be surprised that it would be like pretty boring, just chop around, consolidate within 112K to 115K. That's the ideal case. Hopefully we don't get down to 106K or 112K. But that being said, this cycle is weird because most of these funds, why Bitcoin pushed to new all-time high is because of institutional money. Like retails are technically still not here. Retail still don't know what's going on with Bitcoin. Not many people are paying attention, let alone Ethereum or let alone other altcoins. So that's the labor market. And one really juicy news before we moved over to the next part, which is Ethereum, is that Donald Trump is so mad at the head of the LSB because hours later, after the release of the weak jobs market, that head of the LSB got fired. That is BLS got fired. So that is pretty funny or like pretty juicy. So here's the original post by Donald Trump. So he posted on Truth Social that, well, I was just informed that our country's jobs numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, who faked the jobs numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March 2024 by approximately 818,000. And then again, right before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong, right? We need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed the team to fire the Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. So she said there were only 73,000 jobs added, which is a shock. But more importantly, that a major mistake was made by them. 258,000 jobs downward in the prior 2 months. Similar things happen in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under Trump despite a Fed always plays games, this time with interest rates where they lower them twice and substantially just before the presidential election, I assume in the hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work? Jerome Powell should always be put out of pasture. Thank you for your attention for this matter. Well, there you go. So there is so much rage from Donald Trump. Like, of course, there are supporters and there are people against firing because, well, it's unprecedented, I have to say. So the pro view, like the pro firing view, is that there's like a BLS made a huge mistake, like a large downward revision, and then this person basically is incompetent or biased to support Joe Biden, and they believe that they want to bring the so-called honest numbers after years of Democrat spin. But of course, there's always the other side of you who against firing someone like this. Well, they say that basically there's no proof of manipulation. The data is compiled by civil servants, not political appointees. And firing a commissioner midterm, this has never been done before. And what does this say to other countries? Like, are they going to lose confidence in the USA? Like, because what Donald Trump is doing here, it acts very like almost authoritarian regions, like some parts of the world would do, but not the USA. So, does he erode public trust in all government data? Like, what about jobs data? What about inflation or GDP or even CPI? So, yeah, like if the US starts flying blind on economic data, policymakers get risky very fast. I don't know if you guys support this or against. Like, am I being too conservative here? Like, I don't know, but like if you look at the overall sentiment online, like 60% of people against the firing and 30% of people supported. The rest is just neutral. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't say anything because at the end of the day, I'm not American, and I'm just like telling you the news and overall the sentiment, how people feel about this. But let's see how it plays out. It is what it is. Moving on next, we have SharpLink Gaming. They bought another 30,000 ETH today, and right now they hold, let's see, what, I think they haven't revised the number, but right now they hold 480,000 ETH on the balance sheet. So that's a lot of Ethereum. Who is this SharpLink? Basically, so this SharpLink is a US-based sports betting tech company. It went public in 2021 and originally focused on performance marketing and affiliate tools for betting platforms. In 2025, they pivoted into crypto treasury mode, like mimicking basically what MicroStrategy MSTR has been doing for Bitcoin, but they are doing it with Ethereum. They even brought in like Joseph Chalem, a former BlackRock executive, as the co-CEO to double down on the ETH thesis. But like, why is some people concerned about this and even call it a bubble? Because if you actually look at the financial of these companies, like first of all, there are more companies entering this list. I know there'll be like a bunch more haven't appeared yet, and they will be in weeks to come or months to come. Because yeah, and then a lot of these companies are even buying more Ethereum with like fundraise for selling the shares. But if you actually look at the financials, I'm concerned about these companies who are entering right now to buy Ethereum because, well, first of all, SharpLink right now is trading at $17 per share. It skyrocketed dramatically before that announcement. So SBEC Stock. Basically, if you go back to 6 months, you see this huge spike. They pump up to like $79, for God's sake. Right now it's $17, which is still like a 5x from here ever since that announcement. So is the company financial supporting this? When I look closely, I have to say I'm afraid not. Like SharpLink doesn't generate enough revenue to buy ETH with profits. If you look at the TTM means the revenue in the past 12 months. We are at 3.4, so 3.4 million because numbers is in thousands, and then net income loss of 3.5 million, and cash flow is basically negative. Instead, like how they raise money is from stock market via ATM offerings. In other words, they are printing shares, raise those cash, and then buy ETH, and ETH goes up, stock goes up, and repeat. Like it sounds very familiar because it's like a bubble loop. Why does this matter? Like, why am I so concerned? Because if you scroll down, the metric that I would like to look at is the EBIT. That is earning before interest and taxes. Why this is so important, and by the way, is it negative? Is negative $3.6 million here. Why do I look at this metric so importantly? Because it is the company's operating profit. It tells you how much a business earns from its actual operations before accounting for interest on debt or taxes. So imagine if you own a coffee shop, like after paying rent, salaries, buying coffee beans, you have $50,000 left. That's your EBIT. It doesn't matter yet whether you owe taxes or have a loan on that espresso coffee machine. Like we look at EBIT because it basically strips away the financial engineering. It shows whether the core business is healthy. But right now, if you look at the EBIT, is negative. And on top of that, they still have to pay that interest expense. Like in this case, it's not significant. It's only 0.32 thousand. That's nothing. But the problem is they have negative EBIT. That means this business is a classic zombie company. This is a textbook zombie company. So they are not making any money from their real business. The only reason they buy it is to save the entire financial, which is not what we want to see. This is not something healthy. Like we want to see EBIT larger than the interest expense. This is not the case. EBIT is negative. And if you look at other companies on this list, for example, Bitmine, like Bitmine right now holds the most ETH compared to like all the ETH Treasury play. But if you also go over the income statements, the financial of Bitmine, you'll see the same thing. Okay, let's go over to EBIT. It's negative again. And then, well, interest expense a little bit higher, which is not what we want to see, but I focus basically the income minus the interest expense. Right now, the earning like from the actual business is not covering is that. So this is another classic zombie company, which is not healthy. Like this non-healthy companies are getting into by Ethereum. But like if you go over to list, BitDigit is okay. Like BitDigit has like is profitable business, so far it's healthy. So BitDigit is fine. But if you go over to BTCS, so let's go to BTCS. All right, BTCS. If you go to the financials, let's see the EBIT is negative, and they still have to cover the interest expense. So a lot of these zombie companies are buying up Ethereum. It doesn't take a genius to know that there's a bubble forming here. And if you go back to the news, like SharpLink Gaming bought like a bunch of Ethereum, because SharpLink Gaming has really unhealthy financial, because if you look at, some people will calculate the NAV per share, whether the stock is overvalued or not, because we look at the stock, it pumped up from basically just like in May, so like 2 or 3 months ago, it was at $2, right now $17. Some people say it's like highly overvalued. So in order to see whether it's highly overvalued, you have to calculate the NAV per share. So right now they have like how much ETH in holding. So 1.56, okay, 1.56, so 156 million in ETH holding, and you minus the 15 million in the liabilities, and also plus that 10 million in other assets, maybe like cash or IP, etc. You get 1,520, and you divide it by the shares outstanding, which is 1 million, and you get 15.2 dollars per share, which is not like too overvalued, because we right now is trading at $17. That's modest. Like if ETH goes up, it's going to be okay, but if ETH drops like 20%, the NAV crashes, and so does the stock. It's basically a high risk, high reward, and dangerously leveraged. That's what I'm saying. So if you guys are into that degen thing, you want leverage play on Ethereum, then maybe you could do like a small bag. But I personally, I wouldn't get in. Like, I'd much rather just to hold the underlying asset, which is Ethereum. Like if I want to leverage it up, I could do some like a few X. But personally, I'm not a big fan of these zombie companies buying up Ethereum. So yeah. Well, moving on, so that's for Ethereum, but like moving on to just to close this show, well, before we go, there's actually another double discount for Tenim. So if you guys watch this channel, you know I'm a big fan of Tenim. And if you buy right now, because Tenim always have this like double discount between the beginning of August till 13th of August. If you use my discount code JEMJEM10 with another discount code FRIENDS, you'll get 15% off. So here basically, so JEMJEM10 and FRIENDS, you'll get 15% off. So if you guys don't have a Tenim card, seriously, I don't know what you're doing, because like Tenim is by far the easiest cold wallets I've ever used in my entire life. Like, you don't need seed phrase, this whole setup process, it takes like 3 minutes. I have done a full video about crypto wallets like Tenim, some latest updates and even how to set up, because they have different products. They have like this ring, by the way. I really like the design. It's very like silk and very low key. And they have that, the classic Tenim card as well. I have some cool design. Obviously, this USA is pretty cool as well. I like that too. But mine, the one I like the most is the Shiba Inu. It got like a very vibrant. Let's see if I have it here. Oh, there you go. It has like a very vibrant orange color. So this is by far the design that I like the most. But I don't think if you can get it right now, because they always have like new designs for different cards. Anyways, all I'm saying is that I am a big fan of Tenim. If you haven't used it already, make sure to try it yourself and make sure you use the discount code, because like Tenim always have double discount. So make sure to take advantage of that. And then that's it. If you guys haven't subscribed on YouTube, on X, on Rumble, please do. And I plan to do this like 3 times a week, like three live stream a week. So make sure you stay tuned. But if you guys want like more up-to-date content from me, make sure to follow me on X instead, because I don't always have the time to do videos like this. Anyway, so thanks for watching. That's it for today's content.